Hey folks, in this episode, it is Frank Bowl in the rabbit hole. And I mean in the real rabbit hole that is down here in North Kansas City. It is the only immersive children's literature museum in the entire world. And we're going to meet the people behind it.
There's Just Something About Kansas City is brought to you by the generosity of our friends with the Haverty family, the Sherman family, the Cockrell family, and Don and Mary Doherty. Thank you.
Okay, folks, I have emerged from the rabbit hole. I am now in the green room. And if you don't recognize this, you can blame your parents because this is the green room of Goodnight Moon. And sitting beside me, one of the co-conspirators, co-designers, co-owners, co-brains of this entire outfit, the rabbit hole, is Pete Cowdin. And Pete, you and Deb Pettit just have done, this is something for everybody, isn't it? This place is just unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly right. It is for everyone. I was just talking with someone about that. A lot of people ask, like, what ages is this for? And I'm like, it's for every age, 0 to 90. You know, it's an intergenerational experience. We built it that way so that it could be shared. All books, especially with children, are best consumed shared, you know, as a point of contact. And yeah, I think, you know, it's fun to watch people in the museum. Older people have books they recognize and they gravitate to them, share them with their kids or grandkids, and then kids see books they know and they kind of enlighten their elders about, you know, the books that they love. And so creating a place where books become the focus and a point of contact and then a source of joy, you know, people reading. The best thing is when you see people in the museum reading together, and that's just super, it's just inspiring, you know, that, you know, when we made this project, it took a long time. We had our head down, we were grinding, and then, you know, suddenly you're in business and you don't know how it's going to happen or how it's going to unfold or if it's going to be successful or resemble anything that you imagined, you know, in terms of interactions. And, it's been really great that way. I mean, we've had a lot of comeuppance too, because, you know, we have our own fab shop in the back where we build all of the exhibits and everything in them. We have 18 full-time artists, fabricators. We thought we built this to be indestructible, you know, when we...
Listen,
Oops.
Yeah, trap some kids in here for about 3 hours without any supervision to see how indestructible this place is.
Yeah, it was, the first month was hectic and was an eye-opener. I mean, again, we really did work hard to create everything. As you can see in this room, I mean, these are steel pieces, you know, for the fireplace. They're bolted to the floor. I mean, there's a lot of care that went into it, but you just don't know until you know. And then, so that was a big adaptation that we quickly came to the light on that. Not that we hadn't. A lot of this stuff was made just fine, and it's just, you know, finding those spots. We really learned a lot in a good way, and also not just the safety and the destructibility issue, but also. You know, what can we add to that exhibit to make it better? You know, how are people actually engaging it? And then what does that look like? And that's one of the benefits of having our own facility, you know, where we can continue the iterative design process over months and years if we need to. We've just added, like, for example, an entry to Shel Silverstein's exhibit, you know, but it's been up for 1.5 years, and it really was a beautiful kind of addition. And, you know, it helps the exhibit a lot, and it's great. So that's a benefit of the way we approach the project.
Yeah, right. And you can almost tag along behind some of the crowds who are in here with their kids, and then you have the schools come in and everything. But you can tag along behind and listen to what a little kid says and says, well, where's the whatever it may be? And you go, oh, okay. So you have a little notebook behind you, probably jotting things down all the time.
Yeah, that's part of it. But also we've left things out. I mean, kids are your best observers, especially if they've seen the book. And people, you know, parents often complain about reading a book 200 times, but every time you read that book to a kid, they're building another part of that world. Like, it's not a static experience to them. It might be to a grown-up, but when you're and when you bring them into a place like this, yeah, they have the details. They're going to look for the things that you missed, and sometimes, like I said, we pull things out on purpose, especially main characters. So we want visitors to sort of become the character. So, for instance, in the bus upstairs on Last Stop on Market Street, we have Nana and we have the other characters from the book, but we didn't put CJ in the bus because you're CJ. You kind of assume the role of CJ, or not the role, but just like you become that observer and it brings you closer and farther into the book.
Right. And just to give people who don't know and who they listen to us all across the United States, people formerly from Kansas City, and you just opened up in 2024, almost exactly 10 years or 12 years after the initial seed idea came. It was on the exact day, as a matter of fact, which is really, really crazy. You started in 3/12/16 and opened in 3/12/24, so it was 8 years almost to the date. But for people who don't know about the Rabbit Hole, it is the only immersive children's lit museum maybe in the entire world. Now, there are other children's lit museums in other parts of the world overseas, but they probably hone in on one author of children's books, like Hans Christian Andersen, probably, that type of thing. Here, it's hundreds of thousands of books that we've been reading since the beginning of putting books together. Just to let people know, New York Times says this is a place to visit, period. And the one of the 50 great places in the United States, and then Time Magazine says it is a place to go. You've got to go to the Rabbit Hole. And they're telling everybody in the country. And with the World Cup coming up, you'll have people from all over the world. And I think this will be a stop for a lot of those people who really think about those things. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I hope so. I think it also depends a little bit on what teams come to Kansas City. I will say that generally European children's literature culture is an order of magnitude more intense than American children's literature, although the U.S. has a really strong industry in that regard.
Right.
There's just a lot more going on in Europe. The biggest children's book fair in the world is Bologna in Italy once a year. And I think, it's exciting because I think there are folks from South America, really anywhere, who are going to be interested in seeing, the unique cultural representations. I think, like in other countries, I can't speak for all of them, but definitely in European countries, there is a high regard for children's culture in general. They don't separate it as much.
Probably higher than us, right?
Yeah, in the U.S., we've kind of over years. Well, I mean, when we were kids, we never saw our parents, but.
Good point.
But over time, in our culture, we've separated children's and adult cultures, whether it's art, literature, whereas and so you won't see, like in the U.S., a children's person who dedicated their work to children's culture, like a children's books, and are working at a high level. You'll rarely see a museum, an actual museum show of their work. In Europe, that's not the case. You will see people celebrated for contributing to whether it's children or adult. And I think that's something we're trying to do at the Rabbit Hole, is to really ennoble children's culture as a culture. The books in here aren't random. There are 100 years of children's literature, and it is, it's not curated in this. It's totally curated, but it's not mediated in the sense that we're telling everybody what to think or how to connect these
what
things.
book to read.
We provide the background for the exhibits through our programming, and that's where, like, when we have schools come in, we can really enrich and build their experience through programming, and then they come to learn about authors and illustrators when they lived, who were. A lot of those exhibits are placed together because the creators knew each other, or fed on each other, or influenced each other, and it's and we're really proud of that, because it's not about bestsellers, although some of those books in there are best-selling. There's two cultures. There's the market culture and there's the culture.
Yeah, right. The culture.
The art,
yeah, exactly,
the culture,
yeah.
the art culture, and the literature culture, and those things don't always match. Important books that we have out in the museum, some of them are out of print. Many of them are not, bestsellers, but they're important in the lineage of
Right.
bookmaking, for kids over the course of a century. So it's important.
Right, and the basis for our culture and for our culture to evolve and keep evolving is reading. I mean, that is the base of everything. That starts out, you can't do math if you can't read,
Right,
for all
right,
practical
right.
purposes,
Right.
okay? And you can't do hardly anything without
Absolutely,
without
it's
the
a
base
foundational,
of reading. Foundational, yeah.
from a democracy standpoint.
Yeah,
Like the people have to
absolutely,
be
yeah.
informed and have to be able to gain knowledge so they can make reasonable and rational decisions. But I think more than that, like there is a crisis in reading among kids, especially early on, first through third grade, and there's a lot of work being done on that front through foundations and literacy agencies are really focused. The rabbit hole's a different part of that story. We provide a place that recognizes the culture. We provide a place where young people can come in and see that books are important.
See them come alive.
And come alive and inspire them around story. We're not trying to teach them how to read. We're trying to teach them how to love reading, and how to love
Right.
books, right? And it's super cool when, an older kid like 9, 10, 11 is asking to get this book and that book, which, might be My Father's Dragon. It might be Frog and Toad. It's not the parent saying, hey, this is good for you. We're going to get a couple books whether you like it or not. It's the opposite. They have the experience and they want to take it home.
Yeah.
And that's the success of the rabbit hole so far. Like that's one success we can guarantee. The bookstore is very successful, and it's I think 1 out of every 2.5 people buy a book.
Yeah.
Which is a big number when we're talking about we've served over 200 and whatever thousand people up to now. The translation is working where you come in, you have an experience with literature you've never had before, and it's not the parents, although the parents love it too.
Yeah,
they want to buy.
because
I mean, we
reading
get
books they heard as kids.
we get so many just adult visitors, and we
Right.
get so many visitors from out of town.
Right, I'll bet you get adult visitors who've been there with the kids and said, okay, well,
Yeah,
the kids are in
yeah.
school, we're going back to the rabbit hole
Or they
ourselves."
come for Friday 21 plus night. We
Exactly,
do
yeah.
an adult evening twice a month where you can come get a wine or a cocktail and roam around in the museum
That's
with your
perfect.
friends, and it's lovely, and people really appreciate it. And I think this is also an evolving project, so there's something new when you come back, a new exhibit or a new program. So we're excited about that. We've got 2 more floors above what we've built in so
Yeah.
far, and we plan to use them. So
Let's talk about that. This 150,000 square foot warehouse. Use 40,000 of it right now for the museum.
about
and
65.
Oh, 65,000.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's ever expanding. You have 2
Yeah.
more floors above this,
Yep.
which you just must have ideas just bursting because you have so many people who are creative working here going, this would be great for this would be
Yeah.
great. It's probably the toughest thing is to go, okay, slow down a minute, let's go back over and really see what we have, right?
Yeah, I think, always trying to make sense. There's always great ideas flowing.
I see a smile on your
Well, there are. I mean, it's great. That's the fun of it. But what you kind of said it. It has to make sense
Yeah.
in the context of the museum, and how we want to treat the 3rd floor might be different. It might be radically different than what we've done on the 1st and 2nd floors. We have lots of ideas, and we have rights to over 80 books right now. We have plenty to work with, so it's more about time and money most of the time. But it's exciting because one of our big inspirations was the City Museum in St. Louis, and if you've ever been there, you
Yes.
know that that's an insane vision of Bob Castley, and he's passed, but they've kind of continued on. And the beauty of it was that it started as one thing, and then it became another thing, and then it became 10 things, and it's pretty, and that building's 600,000.
Right.
But you know, he was playing with that whole architecture, the whole space. How can we move through it? And the point of that is, you know, when Deb and I, we took our kids there at least once or twice a year, just to see what was new and what crazy thing, you know, Bob was going to make. And we really, that was kind of the deepest inspiration for us, was trying, what if we had a place like that where we could attach story to it, you know, and it wasn't, you know, Bob's thing is just a nut job vision, beautiful, weirdo, like incredible,
That's right up your
unsafe.
alley. That's right up your alley.
I love it. Yeah,
Right, you love that.
that's my origin story. Actually.
What, he fell 3 stores? You know, he should have read the sign.
Yeah, no.
Slippery when wet.
Well, when you walk into a place and you know you've never been in a place like that before,
Yeah, right.
That's a rare thing. First of all, because you know, especially as an adult, we've seen a lot of places. We know what museums are supposed to look like. We know what, you know, when you see something truly new, it's kind of mind-boggling. And so, you know, we aren't remaking the City Museum, but a lot of that same ethos and like, hey, let's play with the building, let's cut holes in it, let's move people through it in a different way where it's unexpected, and that causes great joy and some problems too, because you know, we're trying to keep kids from destroying things, but we're also inviting them to
destroy things.
Well, be very active. Yeah. You know, I mean,
It's being nice about it, okay? I understand what's going on. It's like anybody would walk in the museum. I remember the first museum I ever walked in was, I'm from Pittsburgh, so it was Carnegie Museum.
Yeah. I've been
And so you walk in, you hear, well, there's dinosaurs in here.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and you're the little kid, you go, what? And there's dinosaurs in there. I mean, you got the bones, and the dinosaur's 40 feet tall, and you just go, they used to, is this like blown up? No, it's not blown up, that's the exact size.
Yeah.
And just for them to all of a sudden, or they go down the stairs or the rabbit hole, you walk in and see a little rabbit at the end, and all of a sudden they're in the rabbit hole. Which
Right.
for them has to be just an incredible experience when they first walk in.
Yeah, and sometimes more for adults. You know, people see them just kind of tearing up, or like, you know, coming. And books are so emotional, especially children's books, not just because they read them to their kids, but maybe they were read to. And most people have a handful of those, you know, whether it's Blueberries for Sale or this book, Good Night Moon, or
Good Night Moon.
Exactly, yeah.
That one.
And honestly, I mean, I can't tell you how many people I've seen in this room just burst into tears. Like, you know, because I think part of it too is the care we've taken to make the books feel, to create the moment in the book, right?
To immerse them.
Most things that are built for children are built kind of on the it's good enough principle. Like, it's close enough, because it's kids. Yeah. They won't notice. And that's why, you know, that's why you sort of a broken record about this isn't just for kids. Yeah. This room we built 12 times full size out of cardboard before we built it. Like, we modeled it in every way, digitally and physically, out of, you know, materials, so that we could get it right. Yeah. And the thing that people walk away most impressed with is the detail and the fidelity of the work. And we can't build out every book in its entirety, but we find that one moment, right? And in this room, when you walk in, that's the moment you see the great green room. Yes. There's more to the story, and you're going to fill that in or read the book, but you are captured by that. There's a place where you stand in front of Blueberries for Sale. It's the moment. You see, you know, it's from the book. You feel like you're in it. So I think that kind of faithfulness, that kind of respect for children's culture is what is breathtaking for people, because they didn't expect the size of it, and they didn't expect the beauty of it. And being able to do that, if that's all we did for kids, that's what Debbie always says, that's enough. Like, if we created a place that was beautiful and was 100% respectful of that work, then that's a win. You know, whether any kid, because it's just not common in our culture. We just, again, we
cut corners.
And we cut corners because it's for kids. So I think that's super important, and it's a big step up for people when they come into this museum to just stop and say, oh, okay, I'm actually gonna really look at this because I want to make, I want to see what else is gonna happen, like what else I'm gonna see, and that's what we're super proud of, and the artists that we work with and our staff, they're incredible, and they've really wrapped themselves around that idea. Our mantra is, look at the book. Like you can be making something like a chair, and you could look at a rocking chair like as a reference, and you might end up making that rocking chair, but not this chair, which is really two-dimensional.
Just make a rocking chair.
Right, and we've had that situation over and over again, and it's a testament to the people who are fabricating and creating a lot of this stuff, that they have invested themselves in it to the point where we will remake it if it's not happening, if it's not, that magic isn't happening. So, it's a luxury on one hand, but that's why we set up the model like we did, to have our own fabrication facility. And that's a thing, in fairness to children's museums and other children's outfits, they depend on consultant, a designer company, a design company, a fabrication company. They got 5 different concerns they're trying to, coordinate to get a result. And once that process is in place, there's no going back. And if you change it, it's going to cost you this much more money. And if you're not happy with this, then they have to go back. You're going to pay this much money. So it doesn't happen because it's not reasonable from a budget standpoint or a financial standpoint. So having this incredible team of people, every day working back there, who can come out and also fix things and make things better, is what raises the rabbit hole that step
Above
higher.
everybody else.
Well, in terms of like the care for what the actual result is. And again, it's not their fault that somebody hires somebody, and you're not going to spend another $100,000 to redo it. But so I don't want to be like, I just think it's our model works for that. And we were lucky we were able to achieve that and move on. I mean, half our staff is our creators.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. And for people, I don't know if you can hear it in the background, but the clock is ticking. Okay, you can hear the fireplace crackling. The moon's out the window. And it's just, it is, the bed is there, the pillows, the exact pillow. You got the bowl of mush.
Yep.
You got, Grandma was sitting in this chair.
And the mouse.
The mouse is there. The mouse is right
Forget the
by.
mouse.
And this is where Grandma was whispering hush.
Yes.
So it's fantastic. But let's go back to the story of you and Deb, period, is fantastic. It's almost like when you got together and this idea started formulating, because Deb was, in New York.
Yeah.
She was at h'Hole's bookstore in New York. Yeah. You're both from Nebraska, at least lots of your lives in Nebraska. Right. Your dad was a journalism instructor at the University of Nebraska, started the Mass Journalism School at the University of Nebraska for all practical purposes. Deb's dad was in Omaha, and he was at Creighton University, and he was a teacher at Creighton University. But you two never knew each other in Nebraska, did you? You never met?
Well, it's funny. So we went to rival high schools. Like Deb was at the West Side, very evil, and
very evil.
And I was at Creighton Prep.
Very
slightly
preppy,
evil.
Very preppy, coat and tie. Yeah, right. No jeans.
Well, it's
and Creighton Prep.
when you had
now.
clergy, that was 3/4 of the faculty.
Yeah,
now that's not really the case
right.
anymore. But anyway, I went mostly there to play soccer. But the point of that is, we had mutual friends, but we probably were in the same room together in Omaha at some point, with a bottle of beer or something. But I mean,
at Creighton Prep.
Come on.
I know, I'm only kidding. Go ahead.
You know how much beer you drink in high school.
Yeah, in high school too. Believe me, I've been there. Iron City. Okay, I'm guilty. Yeah.
But no, I'm sure we ran into each other. But it wasn't until I went to New York. I was on my way to graduate school, the long way, and I stopped in to see a friend who happened to be a mutual friend that I didn't know at that time. But with Debbie was working at yours, as you mentioned. She spent a little over 3 years and really built her whole she really got her chops there. It was a really intense place to work and learn, and you have to know the books, and that's where she really, really excelled. But anyway, so we go to New York. I'm literally there 24 hours. My friend has an apartment on the corner of Christopher and Bleecker Street. So Deb comes down, he invites her down, we go out and get some Chinese food or something, and and we all go back to his place and drink on the roof, down there. It was a beautiful thing. And then the next morning we got up and I asked Deb to marry me, and she said yes. Oh my God. And then I left. That was it. And I didn't talk to her for 8 more months. So I was in a phase, Frank, where I was asking every woman I met to marry me. So she was really the only one who
was like, yes.
Yeah, but it was sort of in fun,
Did you go, what?
Yeah, I was like, okay, I'll be back sometime. So it was a very funny, silly, it was great. And Deb and I still go back there to Christopher and Bleecker because, we have a place. Like that's actually where it. But so we didn't see each other. But Deb ended up coming to Kansas City in 1988.
Yeah, why did she then leave? I know maybe she wanted to go back to Midwest. She was at hOle, which, like you said, is that intense bookstore in New York City. But why did she decide to come back to Midwest? Because I know that's what's going to attract you back.
Well, she wanted to start her own store in somewhere that was affordable, right?
Right.
New York, yours is probably this big, as big as this room, and it was the biggest children's bookstore in New York, and and it cost probably, at that time, $15,000 a month or so. I mean, it was some crazy Upper East Side, whatever. But anyway, she had enough love at that point for that she knew she wanted to have her own store, and this is what she wanted to do. And so she came to Kansas City because it was close to Omaha, but not in Omaha. Neither of us really wanted to go back to Omaha for any. And
we'll leave that right there.
Well, it's not really anything.
We don't want to discourage the people from Omaha from coming down. Okay,
it's a great place to grow up.
It is.
I loved my childhood there, but we were both looking for new experiences, but you're still close enough to you can still go say hey to the parents and still have family time. But anyway, so we started. Deb came out actually, so I wasn't in the picture. Right. She came back through. At that time, I was back up in the Twin Cities a year later, and she came through. We reconnected. And then she came down here with my friend who introduced us, by the way, who has become a lifetime. Anyway, that's another story. But she comes down here and leases a place, gets her mom to do a second mortgage, leases a place in Westport.
God bless Mom.
God bless Mom. And you couldn't do it. It was $30,000, $35,000. That's what she started the business on. Wow. Which you could. I mean, that's painting and construction maybe.
Which became Reading Reptile.
It became Reading Reptile. Yeah, and so she, shortly thereafter, I kind of migrated down. I kept coming down to visit.
You got thrown out of grad school? Is that what happened?
Oh, man, Frank, you've done your homework, haven't you?
Yeah, because of folding chair?
Not a folding chair.
Whatever kind of chair it was.
It wasn't that one either.
Okay, it wasn't this one. This one, no. This hasn't been thrown out of anywhere, nor will it get thrown out. No, tell me the story.
Oh, I was up at a place called Cranbrook Academy, which is a educational campus as a Master's of Fine Arts, and I was a printmaker. So
you're an artist and printmaker.
Yeah, I went up there to do that. It also had a boys' high school and a girls' high school, and then a science college of whom I never saw a human being engaged in that. But it's an architectural. It's one of the architectural gems of the Upper Midwest, because Elil Saarinen, who designed it, was kind of like Frank Lloyd Wright. He designed the entire campus down to the doorknobs. So architecture students would come in to see this. I see where you got vision, right?
The detail. Go ahead.
Well, so he it was a beautiful place, but it was not the right time for me to be. I was all of 24, 23 something, and I wasn't really ready to be there at that time. It was a very secluded place too. Took me 40 minutes to go get a pack of cigarettes. I was sort of jumping on my skin because there were other things going on. But I became kind of rebellious in the school, and started focusing all of my work as sort of protest work. And,
Yeah, and you penned yourself A Bitter Man.
yeah,
Bitterman.
that happened too.
But it was A Bitter Man,
Yeah.
right, at that time?
But anyway, I destroyed an illegal Saarinen chair. It was, but not. I don't consider it an active destruction. It was actually a sculpture that I was creating from chairs from the boys. We ate in the boys' lunchroom.
Okay.
These are adult people eating lunch in the high school boys' lunch. It was a little disturbing. But anyway, these chairs weren't in good condition, but they were illegal Saarinen chairs. Eliel Saarinen, by the way, was the father of Eero Saarinen, who created the St. Louis Arch.
Right.
Right. But anyway, I took the chairs back to my dorm, and over the course of the semester, I built this contraption out of the chairs, and ended up destroying a couple of the chairs in the sense of they weren't usable anymore.
Right.
I brought it to my crit in the end of the semester, and my instructor saw it, and he was great. He was very supportive. But he knew, this was, and then long story short, I had an audience with the president of the school, and I had until 4 p.m. to get off campus. And guess where I went?
Where?
Pittsburgh.
Oh, really? Oh, you're kidding me.
Yeah, it was like holiday time. I had a pal down who was going to Carnegie Mellon.
Carnegie Mellon, yeah. My mom used to teach there.
Yeah, and I drove down to see him and just sort of lick my wounds. And there's a lot more to the story, but basically it was the best thing that happened. And yeah, totally, exactly, yeah. But I wasn't in the right headspace for that experience. So I ended up migrating again to the Twin Cities, where I went to college up at Carleton, which is Northfield, my undergrad. So I was very familiar with the Twin Cities. It was sort of my second home, and lived there for a year, and that's when Deb came back there and all that. So that was the big circuit, and I hitchhiked down to KC a lot at that time.
Back in the day.
Yeah.
You could still hitchhike.
I mean, Deb tells the story of her walking home from work, and I jumped out of the back of a pickup truck with a trash bag, and it said, "Hey, do you mind if I hang out for indefinitely?"
For the rest of my life.
Yeah,
remember, you said yes.
Yeah, right. I would totally do that. But yeah, it was great. I mean, in the sense that in those years, and you're young, and you think you can do anything and whatever.
Right.
It was very. It was really fun, and then I became immersed in the reptile. I knew nothing about children's literature at that time, and then I rapidly became, in some ways, Deb's protege as far as learning about books and being able to sell them. You can't sell anything unless you know what that is that you're selling. And so we both, and then we had our children, and it just
you had
never
5
looked
kids,
back.
So you had yes, exactly.
But at the end,
you just went.
Yeah, we just were.
And now we have to make Reading Reptile work. We got 5 kids coming along as well,
It didn't always work. Right?
Yeah, well, I know it doesn't always work.
We tried. We had a couple good years. But one of the poignant things in all that story of like where we came from and how we got there. So my mom sent me, before she passed away, she sent me a picture of my first communion, and about 10 seats to the right is Debbie, and we were both at the, when we were in second grade, right? So we did know each other.
You did sort of know each other, right? Yeah, even in second grade. That is amazing.
Isn't that funny?
That is so cool, the way that just all meshes and worked.
Yeah.
And continues to work. And you've worked side by side the whole time.
Yeah.
Which is not always the easiest thing in the world to do.
I will agree with that.
Yeah, ask me.
I mean, it's I mean, it's definitely, it's great at a lot of the times, and then it can get tricky. I mean, but I don't know a different way of living, I'm sorry. I don't know a different way of living in terms of that's the way it's been since Deb and I met. We never really thought about it like that. We were just doing stuff. This project presented a lot more complexity in terms of our roles and how we approach it. So it has been a learning process for sure.
And a project of love too. But just, when was the original seed? You're Reading Reptile, okay, and you are doing the bookstore thing.
Right.
And I don't know if that time you're starting to see like the Barnes and Nobles and the
yeah.
bookstores really having a problem, and they're starting to fold and all that. And then you're thinking, what is our future with the
Right.
Reading Reptile?
Right.
When was the seed of something that not would just morph away from a bookstore, but would morph into this unbelievable building and idea?
Yeah, there wasn't one moment. I think again, the City Museum was definitely ensconced in our mind. Like, in that, I think we probably thought about that idea 25 years ago, or when just as a, wow, that'd be kooky, or whatever. Like,
Right.
and then but we made a lot of stuff for the Reptile. So the Reading Reptile had a lot of artwork in it, and we were very restless that way. We liked to. And when authors came to the Reading Reptile, we did all kinds of crazy things with them. We did theater things and readings that were really off the wall. I remember we had when Daniel Handler, aka Lemony Snicket, came out with his first series of unfortunate events book, The Bad Beginning. We had a Daniel visit, and we had a wedding, the wedding of Con Olaf, and we put him in it, and it was nuts, But I think we were always restless to do something
Bigger.
and fun and really engage with the creators. And that's where we kind of built our relationships that came to roost for this project. Because by the time we were 25 plus years into the Reptile, we had created relationships with some of the greatest, book creators in the country. Publishers, to varying degrees of connection there. And that's something we worked really hard on in the building of this project. We went to New York every year, twice a year sometimes, to update them on the rabbit hole. Like that's,
Sure.
But I think our gas for the project was having those relationships with mainly the creators of some of the best books, in the last 50 years. And that really gave us entree into being able to get the rights to do this. So that's the thing.
That was a big thing.
It's the thing that has kept most people and organizations from attempting to build a place like this. Because so what we did, we created a model, and that's why we were so vigilant with publishers. And again, we would go to HarperCollins. I'm not talking about like low-level people. I'm talking about the presidents of the Children's Publishing Division,
Right.
and their director of marketing and their director of publicity.
You're not dealing with a firewall, you're dealing with the person.
We're dealing with the people who make the decisions, who are being very kind and considerate to us, but a little bit at the beginning kind of patting us on the head, like, that's a really cool idea, that's really great, but they were, but over time, they were like, oh, shoot, you guys are really, how much money are you spending on this?
Right.
Like, how big is your building? Like, what, and then we'd start showing them actual things we were making, because this is a very build and fly project. We had to convince people here, too, at home, why should they invest in this?
Yes.
And so we needed to build parts of it and hope that it rang true and sent, provided the information that they needed to feel okay about investing in this project, which would end up being close to $20 million by the time we opened our doors.
And that was really a tough thing for you. Let's face it, raising the money to do this had to be just an incredibly hard job.
Yeah, I mean, it was slow. I mean, it was that you had to educate your donors sometimes. Some of them got it right away. And so that was the other cool thing. So Reading Reptile gave us this sort of fertile ground to deal with the industry and to get rights and to convince people. If I go to a meeting with Brian Selznick or John Shesko or whoever, it makes a difference. And they're like, okay. So, and we weren't asking them for money. We were just asking them for support, for rights, to get rights and to get books. Sometimes we'd ask for books. We never asked them for money until the last visit, which was 2023 in the fall. But going back to donors, there were people we also had in our fold from the Reptile whose kids grew up in the Reading Reptile. And we didn't look at them as donors, or we didn't look for their capacity per se. We were just engaged with their kids on a very deep level, whether they came to book clubs, story times, came to the literature festival, or they were involved in what we were doing. And it meant a lot to those kids, and it meant a lot to their parents.
Yeah.
Some of those parents, like John and Marnie Sherman, came out, and we were like, oh, like, great. Do you want to help participate in this. And they brought to our project, they brought this history of, Pete and Deb really, brought something to our kids. They enriched their lives, in a way, and they really understood the value of that. Mm-hmm. And so John and Marnie, as an example, became one of our most important donors almost immediately, in the early parts of the project. I mean, that wasn't like right away, but it took a couple years for us to build the concept. And we had a place down on Southwest Boulevard where we did prototyping. We still were building and showing, and we didn't really get our biggest gift, first gift, until 2017. Wow. So, maybe early 2018. And it was a moment when we knew, okay, we might be able to do this. Like, it was
you
a
still
very,
at that point did not know.
It was very touching. I mean, It was very moving to us. Like, when you start talking about $1 million gift, it's like,
Yeah.
Like,
what
does that even mean?
See Goodnight Moon.
How did that happen? Like, that's cool. So, and then fundraising sort of like that. It's like building a snowman. So, you get different people involved, and those people know people, and people respect those people, and they're like more open to like at least listening and saying, hey, what are you making? And we were reaching out all the time, and the main thing was getting them down here or to wherever we were to see what we were making so that they could start there. And some of these bigger gifts we worked for 5 years. I mean, sometimes longer, but you never, it's
never quit.
Yeah, and it's never, and we had to go from bookseller to museum director or whatever. And that was a bit of a hill too, to convince people that we were able to do that, like that we could actually achieve that and manage that. So it took a lot of work on our part, but it also took a lot of faith on the people who did end up investing in the project. Yeah. And once we got to a point where we had the building, we had exhibits going, but we weren't open yet. We were building, and we had a certain amount of money. There's a tipping point where it has to happen, and I don't recall exactly what that moment was, but it was probably in after, well, we went through COVID, so that was a thing where we didn't know what was going to happen.
Yeah, exactly.
But that actually gave us a little breathing room, gave us a little more time on design and doing our space program for this building, because luckily we got the building and we were in it for a year and a half, maybe close to 2. So we had a really good feeling for it. We had an architect in Gould Evans, Sound Multi-Studio, that we worked with. But the first big hire we made was an architect, and we just hired him on staff. Mm-hmm. And it was the smartest thing we did, because we were able to develop our own space program for the building with a certified architect on our staff and then bring it to, Multi-Studio, who actually this guy used to work for. So it was a really providential thing and we didn't really think that hard about it. We thought, well, we're going to hire Pat, because that'll get us from here to there a lot quicker.
Yeah, right.
Instead of, and a lot cheaper. It's just, that's the thing we found out too. You can really, there are things that you need to do. You need to outsource. There are things you have to be smart about, like that. But most things you can do. There's a mythology about, well, I couldn't figure out what to do with a building. Yes, you can. You just have to get the right people involved. Right?
So absolutely, sure.
And it's more about that and Deb and I didn't know anything about that. But we learned very quickly.
Yeah, to take it from a conception to reality is the big step,
understanding codes and understanding what was possible, and really ingesting that. We became became building owners, so it's sink or swim.
Yeah, sure.
Figure out what you need to do. And we had a lot of good people who came out of the project. From the outside, whether it was Multi-Studio or our Apex, our engineer, we made really nice, close connections with those people. We had a codes consultant, we had, Jay Dunn, and for most of that, all those people invested in the vision.
Right.
Right. Whereas, and it was very different for them because they were used to going in and just, this is what we're making, and then we're done. We were tweaking all the way through, and we actually built our capital project into 4 phases.
Right.
And part of that had to do with COVID, but we did a first phase, cut it. After COVID, we did second, third, and fourth, because they understood we needed to raise the money while we were building.
Yeah, right.
Because we hadn't, most
You
projects
couldn't build without
raised,
the money.
yeah.
No matter what your vision is, you
Right.
can't get it done unless you have the money to do it.
Almost every project raises all their money first. And they
Right.
can do that because they handed it off to somebody else. So somebody else is going to design the buildings, somebody else is going to design the exhibits, somebody else is going to build the exhibits, somebody else.
Yeah, right.
You know, so in our case, it was like, no, we're actually doing that. And we're
In-house.
in-house, and we're an active part of each step. And it was frustrating at times for some of the contractors, but I think by and large, everybody bought into, okay, this is a special place.
Right.
This isn't like any other place that we've worked
In the
on.
world.
Yeah,
all purposes.
and I think they're all proud of being a part of it because it's a great example of possibility, you know, that you don't see so much, you know, where people are willing to give up on some of their own conventional thinking, you know,
Sure.
and buy into, you know.
And sort of make people believe in what
Right.
you believe
Right.
in.
Right.
And, you know, you brought your passion, obviously. Okay, so you could have, you basically probably could have put this almost thing where you could have put it in Omaha. You know, you could have put it in, you know, St. Louis. You could have put it in Pittsburgh. You could have put it wherever, Twin Cities. But you did it in Kansas City. Why?
We didn't have any interest in moving.
Not with the 5 kids.
I mean, that, you know, I mean, I think it was a pretty easy decision. And I think from a fundraising standpoint, we couldn't have done it anywhere else. I mean, this is, you know, I don't know how much you know about that, but like, it's a very,
Giving.
it's a very personal experience in a lot of ways, even though, you know, people, it's built around trust, right? And, you know, to just show up in some city, and
Say,
try
hey,
to,
we got this idea. What do you
yeah,
think?
yeah, and then get one funder who might help you, but you don't know anybody else. Now, that's not to say in this project we didn't reach out blindly to a lot of people too. We did. It wasn't like, oh, we got one big gift and everybody came on. Maybe you get a couple people to come on, and then we got to find 5 more people and 10 more
Sure, and
people.
keep going.
And then you've got all levels of gifts. You've got $1,000, you've got $10,000, you've got $500,000. So we started reaching out, especially after COVID, and during COVID, to organizations, foundations that were outside of Kansas City. So one of our biggest funders to date is a foundation called the Hudson Foundation. And they're based in Texas, in Oklahoma, but the woman who runs that foundation had an experience with Kaleidoscope from Hallmark, because Kaleidoscope back in the day used to travel their Kaleidoscope exhibit, and it was like a little traveling circus, and they would open up this
Right.
bus, and you could make stuff, and they would do it regionally, you know, around, and anyway, it was just a luck because we found the alignment. Like, this foundation's interested in arts and children and reading and all that. And we're like, okay. So we were just sending out packets, you know, like, here's the rabbit hole, here's where we're at in our capital campaign. And we got some hits, and that was one of them that really, really proved out, you know. And she came down, and she continues to come down several times, and is so excited about the project. But all of that to say, you know, we had to build in a lot of different ways, and we couldn't. It wasn't. A lot of some projects are founded by the main donor, you know,
Right, sure,
like where, and they
absolutely.
just kind of bring their friends in, you know, over time and do that. We had to build from scratch, and so we were getting some great action in Kansas City in the sense that we were building a consortium of funders, but we needed to go out, and we found this person, and then we found another one in Omaha, the Suzanne Walter Scott Foundation, He was a partner with Buffett, I think, back in the day. But one of the biggest foundations besides Warren's in Omaha. And it was because there was a woman who lives here in Overland Park who is a part of that family. And they all have their own funds and stuff. But that's how we got connected. It was just by, pounding the pavement. And they ended up giving $500,000 to the project, and they're in Omaha. So they understood the cultural corridor. They understood the importance that, it was just more expansive thinking about what's important. Like, we're providing opportunities not just in Kansas City, but to connect these cities culturally. So those are some of the funding stories. And then just the grassroots. We had such a big following. I don't know. I don't recall the exact number, but thousands of people from all over the country.
Yeah.
Because we had been pumping out this project on socials and things over years and gaining a following. And these are people who might send in $25 or $100 a year or whatever, $250. And so I'm really proud of that, because beyond the core, which you can see on the wall outside of major donors, we had a vast following that really helped pull the energy up to not just the money, but really infusing a lot of energy into the organization. So yeah, it was an all learning experience for Deb and I, but we had some great people working with us, development managers who we hired, who did great work.
Yeah.
And it's really, again, back to the team, like to try and find the right people to build the right structure that can move the organization forward.
Yeah. Well, you've been so generous with your time. I still got a couple questions. Number one, where do you think this fits in with the culture of Kansas City? With Nelson Atkins and the Linda Hall Library and all those sort of, where do you think you fit in with the culture?
Yeah, I think it fits in really well, because I think the trick to that sort of museum ecology is to have museums that complement one another. Right. So we're kind of an interesting hybrid, because on one hand we are a family institution, right? And some would say a children's institution, but we also bridge that with the quality of the work, the museum quality of the work that we make here. And we've had people from Nelson, Steve Waterman and Julio. They love the project, and they understand it for its value, not just in terms of reading and literature, but in the artistry of it.
Right.
They really respect that. We haven't developed partnerships yet with other museums on any deep level, but we hope to, because a lot of the creators whose books are represented in our museum were also important artists, especially in the 20th century, who were painters and sculptors and things like that. So for instance, the Caps for Sale exhibit was based on a book, Caps for Sale, by Esper Sabagina, and she was one of the founding members of the American abstract painting movement.
Right.
And her paintings are collected all over the world. She happened to do a couple of children's books, but that was not uncommon. The room we're sitting in was illustrated by Clement Hurd, and he was in one of the first armory shows in New York. He was a painter. He never thought his legacy was going to be children's books. But he put the same energy and love into creating these books with Margaret Wise Brown, and he created a couple that he did in any of his work. And that's another thing we're trying to illustrate with this project, is that the books that are represented here, people didn't make them to make money. I mean, they did. I mean, that was one consideration for sure. I don't want to be cavalier about that. There were some people more than others who maybe wanted to make money. But it wasn't like today, which is, it's all marketing based. And a lot of people go into the industry to create books that are kind of hitting on trends of what's selling. That was not a driver. For books like this and many of the books in our museum, these people were trying to create the best book they could in this platform called a book. And how do pictures, what happens when you turn the page? That's a huge thing that people take for granted, but especially in the mid to late 20th century and still today, the books we're representing are books that weren't that were created with the same intensity and artistry as the other things those people did in their lives. And another example is like Shel Silverstein or William Steig, or all those people had other lives. They were illustrating for the New Yorker, in Shel's case for Playboy. But you know,
good old Shel.
Yeah, Shel wouldn't probably have as easy a time. But I mean, that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah, right. I know.
But it's true. I mean,
we'll have to get into that sometime.
Well, it is. It's super fascinating.
It is.
But I think that's an important thing about where we fit in, because we created something that's for families, but it's different. Like, it has this other level in it. So it's not like Wonderscope. It's not like the Twain Miniature Museum. It's not like the Nelson Atkins. It's not like Kemper. It's doing its own thing, but it's ennobling a culture that is not represented here at this level.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So the other, well, I anoint you two. Jan Barry would love you and Deb, because you're Peter Pan and she's Wendy. Okay, so
I don't know if Debbie likes
you guys. I'm just saying. If she does or not, it's too late, Wendy.
I might be Wendy, Frank. I might be Wendy. Frank.
You're more Wendy, and she's more Peter Pan. Okay.
Probably.
All right. Well, whatever. Yeah. Jan Bear would love it. Okay, so we'll just put that. Number 2. And last question: have you buried the headstone in the lawn at the Nelson Atkins?
Oh, for which? For Bitterman?
Yeah.
It's
Bitterman.
It's in my yard.
It's in your yard.
Yeah, if you want to come see it.
Okay, I might do that.
A lot of people.
So you didn't bury it at the
not yet.
The Nelson.
Maybe
Not
when I'm been declared terminal.
Well, thank you, and Deb, for
you're welcome.
that you've done and you're still doing for Kansas City. This place is absolutely incredible. For anyone who has not been here, you are missing it. Bring your children, then take your children home and come on back and see it yourself, because it is a place for everyone. And I couldn't end this without this. Good night, mush, and good night, old man, whispering hush.
There's Just Something About Kansas City is a registered 501c3 nonprofit organization with the mission of documenting the stories that have built our city to inspire and educate generations to come. Our work is being made possible by the generous support of local partners like you. You can help us share these stories by becoming a sponsor today. Visit somethingaboutKC.org to learn more.